Okay. So this is the second funnel of Mastering Your Memory with Vicki Mizell. And so this was 1983 where I got started when I was teaching through San Diego City Schools Gifted Program. And then I was also teaching older adults through San Diego Community College. And then a friend of mine said, well, what about the poor businessman who's just trying to make a living for his family? Why don't you offer courses for us? So in San Diego, there was it was a castle. They called it the Del Mar Castle. And this was before Tony Robbins ended up living there. And it was rented out to do seminars. And so I had to figure out how to put the seminars together. And I had a really nice friend at the time named Gary Schreiber, and he helped me. And I was able to teach a 12-hour course. It was 3 hours once a week for 4 weeks. And I was able to start to see how other people were learning the memory system, older adults, because I was basically just working with kids and older adults. So this is where we had regular people learning the program. And I also found that when we were teaching them goals, that a lot of people were already reaching goals of theirs within the second or third week of the memory course. So I had everybody write down a list of their goals, and then not just write the goals, but see the end result of the goal already happening. So for example, there was a gentleman who I later worked with at IBM, and he wanted to change his job. So he saw himself working as an investment banker. And instead of just saying, I want to be an investment banker, he saw an image of his name on the door of a company of friends of his who were investment bankers. Then he said he wanted to make $250,000 a year. So I said, how would you see that happening in the future? So he saw his tax return showing $250,000 a year. And literally within 2 weeks, he had quit IBM and started working as an investment banker. And now 40 years later, not only is he still an investment banker, but he made so much money that he started a nonprofit business, and he has his own college that he's running now. So that's a simple example of seeing the end result of something already occurring for yourself. So I was teaching that. People were making remarkable progress in their goals and achievements. They were able to remember people's names. It was helping them in business. When you remember somebody's name, it makes them feel really cared about. It makes them trust you. It makes them feel important to you. So people were going out and saying, I can't believe I was remembering the name of this client. I remembered someone, I had had a meeting with them, then I ran into them in a restaurant and I remembered his name, and that impressed him. And so people were just bubbling up with experiences. The other thing that I was able to teach is large amounts of information. That's anything that's a page or more in length. And that's where you take the small idea to tend to remind you of the large. So a lot of CEOs were giving speeches where they were just reading the speech and they were putting people to sleep, and frankly they weren't connecting with the audience. So I would teach them to take the main idea and then make a tangible picture with that main idea, and then make the association with that. So if they were talking about, well, I can use this with a script for actors. So there's a Chekhov play called The Brute. And one of the opening scenes is the servant, and she's saying to the woman of the house, It's not right, ma'am, you're killing yourself. The cook has gone off with the maid to pick berries. The cat's having a high old time in the yard catching birds. Every living thing is happy, but you stay moping here in the house like it's a convent, taking no pleasure in nothing. I mean it, ma'am, it must be a full year since you set foot out of doors. So that's kind of a long script, but I'll give you the first beginning of it. It's not right, ma'am. So it's not right, you're killing yourself. Most people don't think suicide's a good idea. So you could see this woman taking a knife to herself, and you just think to yourself, that's not right. Or someone even said you could have a sweater on inside out, so it's not right. So you look up in your mind's eye, you see the sweater, you see the dagger, and the line comes. It's not right, ma'am, you're killing yourself. Then the next line is the cook has gone off with the maid to pick berries. So if you think of a cook, what comes to your mind? Maybe a chef's hat. The cook has gone off with the maid, you think of a little apron. So you could have the knife cutting the chef's hat. The chef hat could put on the apron. The apron could be picking berries. And the cat's having a high old time in the yard catching birds. You could see the berries could be pelting the cat, and the cat jumping up and catching the bird. So this is a way that you can actually take the small to remind you of the large, and then easily you can give a speech, or you can remember your lines in a play. There's through the Learning Annex, I used to teach a class called Off Book in Minutes, and I would spend the day with actors and teach them how to be able to memorize lines, and really had a wonderful time doing that, both in Los Angeles and in New York. So those are some examples of being able to use goals, remembering the end result of what you want to be able to accomplish, being able to take a large amount of information and be able to take the small to remind you of the large, so that you can speak without notes, you can connect with your audience, you can be able to remember things at will, and be more creative and more engaging while you're doing it as well. Remembering names is really important. I can give you a little tidbit of that right now. You always want to look at the person's face. You don't want to look at what they're wearing, anything from the neck below. So you want to look at their face. You want to look for an outstanding characteristic on their face. And if you looked at their face and you looked away, what do you notice? Do you notice their eyes, their ears, their chin, their cheek, their hair, their mouth? And then you want to say the name. Make sure you hear the name correctly. And then you want to turn the name into a tangible picture. So after a while you can get standards like Sally could be a salad, Berry could be blueberries, Susie could be Susie Q fries. So imagine Susie's got really beautiful lips. So you can imagine Susie's beautiful lips eating Susie Q fries. So you look at her, you look at the lips, you look away, you see the fries, and you call her Susie. You wouldn't call her French fry, because your natural memory would still remember it's Susie. Barry, he could be eating berries, or if he had a mustache, he could be growing blueberries out of his mustache. For, let's see, Mary, you can imagine someone wearing a wedding veil. So these are some little examples of how you could do this to remember people's names. By and large, remember, the most important thing of all is this level of stimulation is increasing the neurogenesis in your brain, like the little neural branch growth in your brain. And we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk more about the stimulation, the power of your mind and your brain by being able to increase the neural branch growth in your brain and having more use of your natural innate intelligence, more of your DNA and RNA, all of your talents that you inherited in your genetic lineage, and your own abilities to recall.